What's up, people? It's your boy Jasper Kid for Life here, and I'm doing something different, something brand new I want to introduce, and I'm doing this uh history or character bios on different characters in comic books, manga, anime, you name it. So different fictional characters. And the one I chose today is one I was really interested in as of late. His name is Supreme. Now, if you don't know who Supreme is, he is from the era of the Extreme comics. If you don't know what the Extreme comics are, they were basically the anti-heroes of DC because guys like Rob Liefeld, I think I'm saying his name right, and shit, guys like Eric Larson, Larson, guys like that were basically like the anti-hero versions of like Superman, Batman. I think they had their own version of Green Lantern. His name was Jack O' Lantern, and they were basically anti-heroes. They had basically the same origin as like their original counterpart, but at the same time they basically were overpowered and just didn't hold the moral standpoint of not killing. They just didn't care. If there was a person to take over the world, they'll kill that dude. So moving on to just anyway, moving on to the history of Supreme. Supreme is a fictional hero originally created by Rob Liefeld. He was first published by Image Comics in 1992 to 1996, and then formed again in 2002. And I'll get not 2002, excuse me, 2012, and I'll get to that later. And then Maximum Press from 96 to 98 by Awesome Entertainment from 99 to 2000. Uh, yeah. Now a quick. There's three different types of, well, not types, but three different versions of Supreme. The original version by Rob's version, or Linkfield's version, wherever you want, or however you say his last name. We're just gonna call him Rob. His version of Supreme. He was literally Superman, but just violent, egotistic, mean, nasty, was just ruthless. Was a ruthless fighter and did not care. But also he was an artist too, comic book artist. I found that pretty funny. Uh, yeah. He then that ran from 1992 to 96, and it spent I think it from like 40. It lasted for the original one from Rob's lasted for 40, and then until Moore took over, from 41 on to I think it's like 56. Yeah, 41 to 56, and this is where we get the first reboot. Now, speaking about Rob, his version of Supreme. Not Rob. Excuse me. Alan Moore took over in 90s, in 96. Took over in 90. Took over on Volume 40, and actually, Rob was the one who asked Alan Moore, "Hey, would you like to write the Supreme series?" And he was and Alan Moore agreed. He said, "Yeah, sure," but on the condition he wanted to reboot him. Like he said, you know what? He just didn't like it. He said he felt that the comic was good, but it was lacking in certain areas. Like it was good, but it just wasn't as good as it could be. So starting from issue 41, he literally took Supreme and made him into like he was basically Superman and Doomsday put together, but he was more tailored after Silver Age Superman. The moral standpoint. He was very good, and actually, my opinion, I prefer the Alan Moore's Supreme, not just because he's closer to Superman and the good guy status and the Boy Scout attitude he applied to him, but it's more of the fact that he was that the story it was a lot better written because through there he established more of a plot. You know, yeah, with yeah, and well, excuse wow, I got kind of lost there. Excuse me, I kind of typed up these facts. They're a little scattered, but yeah, his because his comics had better storytelling. It also had background commentary, giving backstory on characters, comic, and basically the comic history in general, and yeah, I mean, it just did a really good job. He really did a good job. Supreme was really popular back from 96 to the 96 to 98 era. Supreme was very, very good. Like, it was a really high selling a very high selling comic. It even outsold Superman and a lot of DC stuff, and it won the Eisner Award of Best Writer. Alan Moore won that, and if you don't know what that is that is basically the equivalent of an Oscar, and he won that award back in 1997. So around in 1990, that was in the basically the gold. People would state that would be the golden age of Supreme, because it's a little bit different. People would call Rob's version of Supreme a lot the silver. You would see it as the silver because it was good, but at the same time, a lot of people, it got a lot of criticism for it doing something different. A lot of people didn't see dark superhero versions, and I actually have the Rob's version of Supreme. I have, and I like it. I mean, the action's pretty beastly. I mean, the action's just intense, and I mean, it does a very good job portraying just how awesome the fights are. I mean, these guys weren't called the Extreme Comics for nothing. These dudes were serious. I mean, the damage they used to cause was just basically the equivalent of Man of Steel. Now, moving on. Now, after in 99, no, was it 99? I had to double check. Hold up. It was, okay, yeah, 99. Yeah, 99, when Supreme was, was picked up by Awesome Entertainment bought Supreme. This is where he got a new writer, and this is basically where the downfall of Supreme came from. And not to be rude to Eric Larson, this guy is a guy. If you don't know who that is, he's a very, very talented writer. He wrote the pre New 52 Teen Titans. He drew that. He's a very talented artist, but he got high scrutiny for what he did with the Supreme series. Basically, what he did is ultimately, I mean, he only wrote 5 issues, they said, but it ultimately, he basically took Alan Moore's work and just threw it. Basically, he just said, screw that. He went back to Rob Liefld's version. He went to Liefld's versions of the early 90s versions of Scream, back to that douche, basically the douche or the meaner version or the anti-hero version of Supreme. But yeah, but what really did the cake is that in his version, Supreme, when he rebooted it, Supreme literally went insane and destroyed everything. Like, he literally went on a berserk and became a villain, and he destroyed every freaking thing possible. Now, this is where he actually went from a hero to a anti-hero to a villain, and this is where basically the bronze, or just this is where Supreme just really hit downfall. Just only in 5 issues, the sales plummeted huge. I mean, just 1 year with the series, and I mean, it turned so bad for Supreme to where people people didn't even care. It was just scrutinized for bad storytelling, inconsistencies in the plot, just everything you could imagine happened, and then it didn't just how people. I mean, and just how they completely did that. And I mean, how he just took Alan Moore's version of Supreme and got rid of it, and it just how basically how and he got with the real criticism he got is how he treated this Supreme, how he took Alan Moore Supreme and just made him just go crazy. It was literally he went from Superman everyday happy go lucky guy and just made him go crazy. Basically, the Supreme series is the equivalent of Dragon Ball, well, not of going from Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball GT. That's how Alan Moore's was the Z, while you could say Alan Moore's and Rob's Linkfield's versions of Supreme were like the Dragon Ball Z of the comic. While, you know, what's his name again? I just said it. Yeah, Eric Larson's version was more of the GT version, if you want to put it in that type of standard. It really just felt to meet expectations. While granted, it did have cool fight scenes, but it just was like there was no point. I mean, you really bought that comic just to watch the fighting, like, well, not watch the fight, just like look at the fights. I mean, you really didn't even care how it looked. Alternately, and then a lot of people looked at Supreme as being, as Eric Larson's Supreme being more of Superboy Prime, you know, invincible, super overpowered, and had no common sense. And then Larson leaving, and Moore's principle, how he set up. And then, leaving the principal just like that really hurt. And then what made it even worse, Larson actually did make stabs at the old Supreme. He would kind of do flashbacks of Supreme in his best state back in Alan Moore's, and that really didn't even help it then until ultimately in 2000, like mid 2000s, it got canceled and Supreme was no more. Nobody had nothing else to do until and then after that, yeah, and it's so funny, and to make the whole ironic part about it, Supreme ultimately death was it jumping away, because at first, what made Supreme popular at first a lot is that he was like a what if, like, oh crap, this is Superman, just, you know, just without, like not caring about no justice or nothing. Well, not saying justice, but, you know, not caring about not killing people. You know, he going in, man. You know, this is awesome. Then when Alan Moore got it, he kind of reshaped it to where, hey, this is just a even more powerful, an even more powerful version of Superman. Hey, I mean, people really started liking that. Then when Eric Larson got to it, that was his ultimate downfall. He did it, and it just he did that, but it just ultimately just turned against him, because he wanted to go back to the original Supreme done by Rob Larson, but Larfield. God, please, I apologize for not pronouncing his name right. I mean, I have a speech impediment. Just kidding, but it's a funny spelled name. But and after that, it just led to the alternate death of Supreme. And I think and also in 2012, there was actually there was a special made the Return of Supreme, which was done in 2012, and basically it was the Eric Larson or the Rob Liefeld version, or slash Eric Larson version of Supreme versus Alan Moore Supreme in the Return in Supreme Return. Basically, it was the equivalent of Superboy versus Superboy Prime, or Superman versus Superboy Prime. You know, that's how that was. So anyway, that was a little bit of history on him. Moving on to his powers. Supreme, basically is the equivalent, like I said before, is the equivalent of Superman and Doomsday fused together. Like literally, his powers are, superhuman agility, flight, super hearing, accelerated healing, heat vision, ice breath. They say immortality. Now, I haven't really read the series that much to say he's immortal, but granted, I mean, if he was made to be Silver Age Superman, then I don't blame him. I don't see anything as superhuman intelligence, invulnerability, superhuman stamina, superhuman hearing, superhuman sight, superhuman smell, superhuman speed. The works. And then a master combatant. And also, he has limited adaptivity, which means he can adapt pretty much anywhere on the planet. Couple side notes on Supreme also is that he is a natural. He has limitless adaptation. That means he can fight anywhere in the universe and not lose his powers, unlike some people, due to his physiology, which the funny thing is, in the Alan Moore version of his physiology, he actually was exposed to radiation, like a special radiation that turned him into that, while in Rob's version of the story, he was basically an alien coming from a foreign planet. I mean, he basically had the same, like I said before, he had the same origins of Superman, but just not Superman, just the anti-hero version. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Supreme is, I think it's a very good comic. The Alan Moore version and the Rob Liefeld version, if you recommended readings, is the issues 1 through 56. Gotta make sure. Let me make sure if I'm doing that right. Yeah, issues 1 through 56, which 1 through 40 is the Rob Liefeld version of Supreme, while Alan Moore's Supreme. Alan Moore Supreme is 41 through 56. Those to me are the recommended readings. Read those. Don't read the other ones that followed after 56. 56 through no, he took over 41. Okay, no, 64. Okay, so he took over from 41. Okay, so start from 41 to 63. 64 through 68. Those are the comics you don't want to read. And then the Supreme Return, that's a good reading too. If you really want to see how that plays out, I recommend reading those. And that's pretty much it on Supreme. Personally, to me, he's one of these under the radar, unknown underground characters that really had a lot of potential, but due to bad writing and just not sticking to what they had, because that's one thing that it takes with characters. If you have what separates a good character from a mediocre character, is that Supreme was a good character to begin with. Even after the reboot, even after the Alan Moore reboot, he still was a good character. People still enjoyed him. It was to the point where, hey, if he really wanted to do that, even if he did jump back if he did want to go back, I mean, he really did just, I mean, Eric really did shoot himself in the foot by, just trying to make Supreme just over crazy powered the way he did. Because granted, the first Supreme, Liefeld's version of Supreme, Granted, he was you know, an anti-hero, but he still had that common sense with him. You know, he still carried that. Hey, you know, sometimes he still had some sort of morality to him. He still had his own morals. They might not have been like the Superman morals, like the Alan Moore Supreme had, but they both had their own morals. While Eric Larson verse didn't even have those type of morals. It just says like, you know, screw it. Yeah, I don't care for morals and just kill everything. And granted, that's how it ended up ultimately shooting himself in the foot. So, thank you guys for enjoying. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm hoping to do more of these. And that was Supreme. And I hope that you guys go out and check him out. And if not, you know, hey, I don't blame. Hey, I'm not getting on you. Hey, you don't have to do it. But if there's anything I'm, you know, misread or I miscalculated or anything that I didn't do right, you know, let me know. Don't. Oh yeah, bashing's not allowed. If you start flamming me, I'm not gonna care. I don't care because when I researched it, because Supreme is one of these characters that, you know, since he's fallen off the planet, you don't really know about him. So it's gonna be hard for me to go, hey, look, look, this, you can do this, and I mean, it just don't work like that. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, I'm out. Stay cool, and make sure to subscribe to Dude Gaming and stay cool. Peace.